Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dynasty Underdog. I'm host Dry Dawkins with me tonight, Billy Feeman and Jake Kornblum. What's going on, Billy?
Oh, I'm just enjoying myself, enjoying some playoff football because my team's winning, continues to win. So yeah, I'm in good spirits. Excited for the show. Got a full sheet tonight. So yeah, it's good stuff. Excited to have everybody back too.
Yes.
Welcome back, Uriah. But what's going on, Jake? How you doing?
It's a full house, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like one of those situations where you probably feel this more than I do because I don't have a very large family. But like if I ever come home from something and like my wife's not here, I'm like, oh, it's not a full house. But like right now, we got like the full house, and it's a different vibe. Billy and I, we can jive off of one another. Uriah and I, we've done our shows. We jive off of one another. Billy and Uriah, they jive off one another. But when it's the three of us, it's like, I don't know, this like weird power, beautiful triangular pyramid Illuminati on my head type experience, and it's just like
triangle.
it's pretty it's triangle. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're right. How you doing, dude?
Oh man, doing great. Been better, been worse, that's for sure. So yeah, excited to be back and talk some ball. Oh yeah, shout out Green Bay Packers lost and Philly lost. So although I'm watching from the couch along with my favorite football team, the Dallas Cowboys, that was pretty fun. Pretty fun weekend for me to.
I will say, hate watching is
Yeah.
really second to none. There's
Yeah.
not much better than hate watching. I mean, like obviously, I guess the only thing better is your team having a chance. But
Yeah.
outside of that, it's like that's what you're here for, right? Like just watch the rest of the fans suffer. Come on.
No other reason to watch. All right, cool. So, some news and nonsense. This is
Sorry, Matt in the comments. The Devil's threesome. I like to dumb us that. That's incredible. Oh my god.
yeah, some news and nonsense. So besides like the coaching stuff, which we'll get into, a lot of jobs open there. But just real quick, shout out Bryce Young. The Panthers picked up his 5th-year option, so that's a good thing for us, who still have faith in Bryce Young's development. Yeah, just shout out. I think he did enough that's deserving. Hopefully, this is just a temporary thing where they do work out a long-term contract, and we could feel more comfortable rostering Bryce Young moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryce in general has looked pretty encouraging. I mean, even in the playoff loss for the most part, I think he's not he's not like some dynamic athlete or anything like that, but I think he's done enough for sure. So I'm not like super excited about him, but I think there was a time to get in on him, and where he's at now, I think you should be feeling pretty okay about it.
Cool. So let's talk about the coaching impact intuition as you have it labeled here, which is cool. So how do the following coaching changes impact the way you are viewing teams in 2026? So here are some coaches who are no longer with us. I mean, they're still here, but they're no longer on their teams.
Oh my.
We have in Baltimore, Harbaugh is gone. I think, if you're not like super intimate with the team, like you're kind of maybe a little shocked, but if you read between the lines, it's a little less shocking. But the thing that's going to be hard to discuss is that we don't have a replacement yet. So it's just kind of spitballing. But how do you guys in general feel about moving on from Harbaugh there and what it looks like for Lamar, etc.?
I guess like the biggest thing that I'll say just really quickly is that I think this really has to help Mark Andrews. I don't know. Todd Monken came in 3 years ago and has absolutely demolished everything that was ever the Mark Andrews that we remembered. And as I'm sure we'll talk about later, I acquired Mark Andrews with a little bit of hopium here that there is maybe this pathway to some enlightened success with some offensive schematic changes and the fact that him and Lamar Jackson are just super tight. So there's no reason for their relationship on the field to have been so deeply impacted. And he also just signed an extension. So I think that there's definitely some pathway for someone like him to have a bigger and better role.
Anything to add, Billy?
No.
No.
I mean, it's a great point. I do think Harbaugh is going to get picked up pretty quickly, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think it was just more the relationship was beyond repair. So I do agree with Jake, though. In general, I think the scheme for this team, should improve for Lamar and the weapons around. I imagine they're going to try to tailor things a little bit more towards them than a scheme, which seems like what was happening before.
Cool. Next one, Detroit has an open offensive coordinator position. Do we expect to see any improvement there? Like, I know losing Ben Johnson was, we all thought that actually, I mean, they lost a ton of their staff after last year, if we're being honest. It's not just Ben Johnson. It was like a plethora of people. But I mean, I don't think the offense was all that bad. So I don't know how huge an improvement a new guy would be. Again, we don't know who that's going to be. So it's kind of hard to really speak on, but if there's anything there that you see that you're hopeful that moving on from a different OC will impact that team, I'd like to hear it.
I mean, it was the head coach, right? Was calling the plays, which is pretty impressive, to be honest, because that's not something that, I think he's done very much or is very skilled at. So I think it probably can get better, even though what he did was actually a pretty decent job. Still, though, I think it could get better. So yeah, the fact that they're looking for an OC, I think, is a good thing at this point, because it was Dan Campbell calling the plays for the most part, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think so.
From November onward, I think it was around like week 8 or 9, Campbell took over the play calling.
Right. So yeah, I think if you have a real OC in there, an established one, I imagine it could get better. Yeah.
Cool. Moving on to Philly. Philly fans, this is probably the only thing that they have really to celebrate right now, but they did in fact fire Patullo. Hopefully the fans will stop egging dude's house and just be normal individuals. If they're capable of even doing that. I was joking. Sorry, guys. But yeah, Patullo's gone. Like, that offense, it's not very fun, man. It's not very fun to watch. Yeah, they're winning games, but like rostering these fantasy players has been not an exciting thing this last year. Saquon Barkley nuked, AJ Brown. Maybe it's lack of effort or what, but I mean, the target share there, just everything, right? The pace of play, the amount of times that they're throwing the ball, everything else is just not really fun for us fantasy folks. So as you say here, like, it can't really get any worse. So I do think that's exciting to see what will happen there. Be interesting to see who they bring in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it can get better and will get better. However, I don't know if the offense will look the same. I imagine AJ Brown's probably out of there almost no matter what, right? Like, I don't think it's just the OC that he's. I mean, it feels like the head coach, he's always kind of butting heads with. I'm sure he's fine with Hurts and everything, but I just feel like there's a real possibility this whole thing looks different. But yeah, I do think it should hopefully get better, but that's not always true. They could bring in somebody else who sucks. So, we'll see. I think you need like a really specific scheme, unfortunately, for Hurts to be as successful as we want him to be. So we'll see if we get that.
Yeah, I feel like it's really easy to like look at this and think of how individual players could be like quickly removed from the situation, but I just don't think it's as simple as that. I think he has like somewhere between like 28 to like $32 million in dead cap, and that's a lot for an opposing team to take on. It's going to be a shit ton for them to take on. So
yeah,
like they're in a really weird spot. I think more likely than not, a lot of the antics that we see on the sidelines doesn't always translate, like with a lot of players, to this like severe discontent of like what's actually happening in the locker room. Like, I do think that there's a lot of narrative driving by the media, as well as folks like us who take a lot of what we see and make it into something. The guy was reading books last year on the bench, right? And that turned into a whole fucking narrative. Like, I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, more so concerned with someone like Dallas Goedert. Like, Dallas Goedert had basically a career year this year from a fantasy output perspective. Does he repeat with massive offensive changes probably occurring from a scheme perspective? Will they start to continue to target AJ Brown significantly more? I believe that Goddard has an out in his contract. Is there a chance that someone like Grant, is that his name? Grant Calcaterra can have a bigger role next year? God for fucking bid. But like, those are the types of things that I could see potentially happening in Philly, as well as a situation where Saquon's role is maybe even lightened, similar to that of what we saw to like Derrick Henry in certain weeks, depending on matchup and things like that, just to make sure that he can also perform at a relatively high level come playoffs. He actually looked pretty good. I will say, shout out to him in the opening round game. He looked significantly better than I was expecting. Also, shout out to Woody Marks, who looked like, I don't know, he took like a shot of something before the game to look as spunky and spry as he did. Not a dude who's lost what, probably like close to 3 or 4 quarters worth of football from sitting out during games without actually getting like an out designation. So
every single game.
It's crazy, man. Like the dude is just like a bowling ball or a pinball, and then ends up just like feeling pain, and then comes back like a quarter later, and you're like, wait, wasn't Woody Marks out? And he's like, no. That questionable tag doesn't do shit to Woody Marks. But anyway, I think Philly's going to be kind of crazy. I think this is going to be one of those offenses where I am going to try and probably get out if I can in the interim, even though the optics are probably that it can only get better, right? So if there is some type of market advantage I can get out of, I'm probably going to, just because to a lot of the points here, I don't think that much of the player personnel is going to change all that much.
Yeah, we'll say Dallas Goedert, his contract's probably going to be voided because they can, and it would be like a $20 million cap hit or something like that. So he'll probably get a contract from somebody else, though, or maybe he'll just take a hometown discount and stay there. Who knows? But he's definitely going to be hot on the market, I would imagine, just based on the season he had.
So Grant Calcaterra, this is the
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, every time that Dallas Goedert has been out, Calcaterra is like kind of involved. It's hilarious.
All right, moving on to not Philly. This is Jake's realm. So hey, Bry Dable is gone. How does that make you feel as a Bry Dable? How does that make you feel as a Giants fan? And what should we expect?
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those situations where fantasy impact will probably take a hit, but hopefully the football gets better as a fan. So it's like one of those weird circumstances where I almost want like lower and shittier production out of Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, etc. But I think that with the right coaching hire, the team should actually perform better and win games. Like, I think if you actually look at the roster, it's not as bad as people put it out to be. And a lot of that has to just do with the fact that our defensive coordinator was actually terrible. Truly someone who should never be a defensive coordinator again in the NFL. Like, I truly do believe that. Shane Bowen, go fuck yourself. But outside of that, I really do think that majority of the individuals that are being linked to the Giants, that would be both John Harbaugh and Kevin Stefanski, there's definitely different pathways to who could lead success from both of those coaching hires. But like specifically with Stefanski, that's the one that I get most excited about, especially for someone like Theo Johnson, where we've seen Stefanski basically be able to execute both 11, 12, 13 personnel, really take full advantage of tight end development as well. And, I think he could really turn Theo Johnson. It's such a random asset, but I really do think he could turn Theo Johnson into like a very competent fantasy asset. So there's going to be a lot of interesting movement there. What do you think, Uriah?
I think you pretty much nailed it better than I can, considering you have a little more interested knowledge with the team than I do. So I think more analysis, more useful analysis is going to come once we actually have like the puzzles put together, right? And all the pieces are in place. Sure. Next one, Greg Roman, he's out. I know that Chargers fans are ecstatic across the across the board, pretty much every Charger fan that I know that I interact with on the socials is very excited that Greg Roman is gone. I guess anything like what gets me is like what happened with like Ladd McConkey. Like Ladd McConkey he had a really good year last year as a rookie, and then this year it seems like he just fizzled out. They brought in Keenan Allen of all people. Like just some of the moves were like kind of crazy. Hopefully, somebody fresher in the league, younger in the league than Roman could come in there and like light things up. I mean, the whole offense is in general like they don't really need a new coach or a new OC. What they need is offensive line. So, but anyway, there's hope there, right? Because I just don't think that the players were being used the way we did. Like Keenan Allen was out targeted Ladd McConkey, and that just seems kind of crazy considering yakability and all those other types of things. And that really does come directly from the offensive coordinator and such. So it would be nice to see somebody else on there.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Roman's offense hasn't done anybody any favors in recent memory. So yeah, I think it's a good thing, but also a lot of what happened this year has to be related to injuries. Like we know that their offensive line was so banged up, so there wasn't going to be a lot of time for plays to develop properly and to go through the reads and hit the targets that he typically would. Also, I mean, they've definitely tried, with Quentin Johnson, with Trey Harris, to draft at least players who would make the offense more dynamic. It just hasn't necessarily worked out, really. So, we'll see. I mean, I think Hampton is definitely a decent asset for them offensively, and somebody could probably come in and figure out how to use all of these players, more successfully. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a needed change. Also, real quick here from Big Boy. Welcome to my car. Thanks for making my drive better. Happy with you, Boost.
Hey, car.
Hey, car. But yeah, hop in, Jay.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is I don't feel bad for Greg Roman because I do think that he is very much a capped offensive play caller, and we've seen this time and time again. But with that being said, they did intentionally bring in Najee Harris to basically supplement, if not lead, probably the running back room for this specific season. I won't say for the future. Clearly, that's a Marion Hampton. But I do think that made a relatively large impact early on from a schematic point of view, because you can't do the same things with Najee Harris that you can do with Kamani Vidal, for instance. And clearly, unfortunately, Vidal, even though
not the things that Greg Roman wants to do, which is run the ball 700 times.
Yeah. Exactly. But like, seriously. And the idea here would be, right, to intentionally run the ball probably close to your point, 60 to 70% of the time. But those 30% or 40% of the time that you actually are passing the ball with Justin Herbert, he also has the ability, which we actually saw this year with Greg Roman, to have some relatively high upside from a rushing perspective. Like the dude hit I think close to 700 yards rushing this season. Like absolutely insane. Like it's not something that we ever expected from Justin Herbert, mainly because the dude probably sprains an ankle by week 3 for the last 2 or 3 seasons in a row. Dude plays with high ankle sprains like no tomorrow. So I think like the biggest thing that I wanted to look at is better understanding like how we can start to take advantage of that specific offense, because I do think that there are a ton of pieces there when we're talking about this a little bit later, but like who are some of the offseason buys? I'd be looking at that offense as to the pieces are all there. The offensive line will once again be healthy again to start off the season next year. We can only assume, God forbid, but we can only assume that the health luck will probably be more in their favor in 2026 than it was in 2025. And therefore, there's a larger likelihood of the offense actually performing to whatever pathway they wanted to. So I don't know. That's definitely one of the offenses on this list that I am most excited for come 2026.
Real quick, Matt in the comments here, just so they can end up getting Todd Monken. That would be horrific.
Hilarious.
That would really blow up all your plans there, Jake, for sure. And then Big Boy Roman had one of the lowest target percentage to running back years over year. So yeah, Hampton wheels up in that regard for sure. For really anybody who takes over in some regard, it's going to be better than whatever Roman was doing.
Is that really part of his game though? Like
Yeah,
in
for
his
sure.
prospect profile, like yeah, everybody can catch the ball for the most
Carry
part.
on Johnson can't.
All right, conversation, John. That's a great point. You're right. You're right.
That's a good pull. Very good pull. All right, last one. Well, and yeah, Tomlin, he's separated too. We could talk about that. Steelers, whatever. But
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel in Miami is gone. So obviously, throughout his time in the NFL so far, he has been looked upon and has proven to be pretty good with the whole run game situation. I mean, no name after no name after no name in San Francisco was producing running backs. It just didn't matter. And obviously had some pretty good success there with Achan and such in Miami. So are we worried about Achan moving forward without Mike?
I wouldn't be. I mean, schematically, like obviously you may lose a little something there. But yeah, I mean, I just think A-Chain is such a good player and he's going to kind of be funneled, both targets and carries. So I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, maybe I should be. I'm not sure. Jake, are you any more concerned than I am?
Yeah, I think I'm mildly concerned. I do feel like Devon Achan is a great candidate for tiering up based off of what the rest of the market sees in him. And like if I can add, I don't know, like a mid to early first in this year's draft to Achan and get into Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs, like I'm gonna do that every single time. And
Of
so,
course.
and no, but I'm saying like the 102 to like 104. Like I'm like I want to make this like as I don't know, as actionable and like in the face as possible. Like I'm going to be trying to do that if I have those types of assets. And so I think I have like 3 or 4 Devon Achan. Those offers have already been sent out and have not been rejected. So I think that is interesting. That's on 2 different builds. The other 2
So
just
what
don't
was
have.
that? A-Chan and the 10, like
In one
4?
build, it's the 102, and in another one, it's the
Okay.
104 plus a second.
For what? For Jamar Chase?
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then another one I did Achan plus 2 seconds for Janty, actually. And that one hasn't been rejected either. So I think that there's a pathway there if you have any type of fear involved in this process. And I don't think like any of those moves you're going to like ultimately extra regret either. I think the biggest thing that I have concern with specifically Miami is just going to be their quarterback situation, which could clearly get resolved pretty fast. They could easily like, I think that they're a great team that I could see being someone who goes after Mac Jones. Like I think Mac Jones probably lands a starting position. I know his contract says otherwise, but I definitely could see San Francisco
That's a Dolphins
trading.
move right there.
Yeah.
If I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it's probably spending like a stupid first in 2028 or some shit like that, and having a starting quarterback for one season or something along those lines. But yeah,
Iston in the YouTube comments, if owners are freaking out and seeking to move, A-Chain can also be a nice buy. Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, there could absolutely be some people scared off. I mean, Jake is kind of echoing those concerns, just based on all that the coach, the quarterback, like all that stuff. It definitely can impact that value. So, yeah, definitely. Don't need to write him off completely. But if I'm with you, Jake. If you can tier up for sure. Plus,
yeah, I'm not trying to liquidate
an early first. Like I want to do that for sure. I want to go into Jahmyr Gibbs if I can. Like I like
Bijan.
that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to
of
liquidate Devon Achan. I want to make that really clear. Like I'm not off of him. I just think that this is like a prime opportunity to get into better scoring assets with other pieces that I'm not as invested in mentally, not necessarily.
Drop
physically.
A-Chain. Got it. Okay.
Ollie Gordon, wheels up. All right.
All right. Moving on. So those are the coaching vacancies that we have right now. We'll circle back to this when we have like again once all the puzzles pieces are all put together and we know exactly where the people are, and then we'll sit here and analyze it and probably be wrong about how we feel like this is going to actually affect these teams moving forward. But that's what we do because that's what we do. All right, so I saw on the old socials, guy Ian Harditz had just put out, hey, this free agent running back class is actually pretty good, and I think this is useful to talk about and just be aware of, because we will have possibly some or none or all of these running backs will be picked up in free agency by new teams. Maybe they'll possibly be signed to their own team, but it's kind of something to be aware about, especially with the incoming rookie running back class looked at as not being super great. So a lot of these guys can still have a lot of value moving forward. So I thought I'd put the list here, approximate cost per KTC, and then just age for funsies. So first one, Brees Hall. KTC has him valued at around the 105, and he's still only 24 and a half years old. Would you guys be willing to move out of if you have your 105, would you be willing to move off your 105 for Brees Hall right now, knowing he may be a Jet next year and he may not be a Jet?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer a little bit, cheaper price, and I think you actually can get into him a little bit cheaper than that. I definitely have, at least, in the past couple months, I feel like. So I definitely like the asset a lot. Like, I'd like the age, don't really care if it's on the Jets, because I think the situation will, get better. But certainly if he's on a different team, I mean, it can only get better. If he's on a different team, I think, I'm fine with that too. So I think that price feels, a little high, but in this draft class, like, it's probably not. Like, probably makes sense. So, but yeah, I'd like to get in slightly cheaper than that. Jake?
Man, I'm looking at trade database prices right now, and fuck, man, like, he's not cheap. Like, he's just not where I would want him to be. The only first one was Tyler Warren for Brees and a third. I don't want to do that. The 109 and a 27 first for Brees Hall. I don't want to do that. Brees Hall straight up for Bucky. I don't feel like there's a need to do that. The best one is probably Brees and a fourth for Kyle Monungai in the 108. That feels pretty palatable to me. I'm not too concerned about Kyle Monungai moving forward. Hopefully you were able to get off of him if you do own him during the season. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, 105 right now is still hated. And I think I'd just rather the liquidity of the 105, to Billy's point. Like, I do think that there's probably ways to get into him cheaper. Like we just said, that's basically the 108 plus a early third is equal to Brees. Give me Brees. 24 and a half is crazy. I don't know why it feels like the dude's way older than that. Did he come in at like 20? Is that what happened? He was
young.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
All right. Next one, Travis Etienne had himself a nice little season this year. 27 years old, but valued up around the 109. So thinking if you were making the playoffs and but didn't make it too far in the playoffs and you have the 109, and you're looking to add to your running back room, not sure you're going to find a Travis Etienne type talent in this draft. But age is a little bit concerning, but I think wear and tear is not so bad. So how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably moving off of him if I can get a mid first, to be honest with you, at this point. So yeah, I actually think he's probably going to get at least another shot in Jacksonville, or he's going to get a contract, because he did have a good end of the year, good season in general. Actually, I shouldn't even say good end of the year. He had a good season in general. So he'll probably be in an interesting situation if nothing else, but probably a good situation, or at least seemingly on paper going into the season. But yeah, at that price, I'm probably going to sell.
And does this make you like want to get into Bashul Tutin or something like that even more? Or
yeah, if the price is, I mean, again, yeah, if the price is low, which it probably should be, because he had kind of the opposite season that Etienne had. So yeah, I would definitely seek those kind of assets out. Jake, thoughts?
I liked that LaQuint Allen's usage also started to grow a little bit towards the end.
Definitely. I wanted to mention that after that playoff game for sure.
Yeah, so I would just say, to that point, he's someone that I'd really look at, because I do think that there's definitely, unfortunately, we play with a lot of people who also listen to the Superflex Super Shows. Shout out to Tommy Blair and John Hogue, but like, he being Tommy is very well connected to the Jacksonville football scene as a Jaguars fan. Shout out on the great season, by the way. But he talks about LaQuinn Allen. So that means that other people are aware of LaQuinn Allen. I do think that if you are in leagues with a few less quote unquote sharps in there, there's probably a way for you to get LaQuinn Allen for basically peanuts, or he might even be on your waivers. Like that should be a guy that you should go after. Yeah, I don't see Travis Etienne coming back. So this is definitely a situation where if you can get Tootin for something, I definitely would see if I could get him as like a throw-in, maybe at like a mid-second round value or something like that into like a bigger deal. Maybe if I'm tearing down off of someone, maybe if you're tearing down off of Travis Etienne, can you get like Tootin plus like an early second or something like that and turn it into something else? Like that would be a move that I would be probably pretty comfortable doing. Just for context, we are running a DU adjacent kind of league where we have a startup right now. Etienne went at the 803. There are also some little perks there. It's 0.75 point per first down for running back. And so, yeah, running backs have a little bit more value than in most leagues, something to be mindful of. And he still went just after Derrick Henry in the 8th round of a startup. So pretty good value still.
Okay. Next one, Kenneth Walker the third. KTC values him at about the 111, and he's still just 25.2 years young.
It's kind of an interesting price. Like it's not my favorite back. It's actually pretty good back. It's just more, both scheme related, and obviously he has his warts in terms of maybe trying to do too much sometimes. But at that cost in this draft, like I don't really hate that price. I'm probably not going to be getting in on any Ken Walker, to be honest. But doesn't seem like the worst price.
Yeah.
And does this make you want to get on to Charbonnet anymore at all?
What was the question?
Does this also like make you interested more in Charbonnet, or is it just always going to be like that in Seattle where they're going to have the two backs and kind of do the thing?
I'm not. What is Walker's contract situation? I'm actually not 100% sure off the top of my head, because that would honestly impact things. But as long as they're both kind of there together, I don't think it's, Yeah, I mean he's a free agent.
He's a free agent, so
okay.
These are all free agents
for sure. Oh right, sorry, free agent. What
are you talking about?
So
what's the point of this?
What am I doing here? Yeah, so definitely more interested in Charbonnet if that's the case. And Ken Walker at 111 is slightly interesting, especially him, because I do think a competitive team probably is going to be in on that kind of player. So yeah, that's interesting. I'd be kind of just taking a look and seeing what the market is like on Ken Walker, because I that 111 price, I'm not even sure if that's really. I mean, are you looking at the trade database, Jake? Is there anything in there that like looks palatable?
Well, I was just looking because I did want to compare the two. I'm just looking at that startup that we're running right now, and funny enough, Matt in the chat actually drafted Ken Walker at the 707, and Charbonnet went at the 906. And I don't know, there's something about both of those prices that are pretty palatable, but they sit with one of them having what feels like way more certainty to me than the other. And it feels like the values should be a little bit closer in their current setting. But I do think that that's what Charbonnet has been in the market. It's just like not a particularly well loved back by the market, just because I think his play style isn't as infectious per se. And so he's a little bit more of a grinder than Walker is. And I think that that's not necessarily always well loved. So at the 906, I'm pretty happy trying to get into Charbonnet, knowing that, the one individual who has been blocking him from being on the field all the time is most likely not going to be there next year.
Cool. Next one, hell of a bounce back season. Obviously, I'm a little biased because he played for my team, but by all accounts, he had a really, really good season. But Javonte Williams, KTC does have him valued at the 112, and he is just half a year older than Kenneth Walker at 25.7 years of age.
Yeah, I'll take a first round pick for Williams if I can get it.
Is it more like a injury scare type of deal, or just
I mean,
uncertainty about where he goes?
It's kind of all encompassing. It's injury history. It's he's not that dynamic. It's I'm not exactly sure where he goes. I think in contrast, I mean Walker's slightly younger, not that much, but slightly younger, also just more dynamic. I think if he ends up in a good situation, he has a lot of upside compared to Williams, who was really more touchdown, carried by touchdowns, touchdown dependent. So yeah, I mean that's kind of more so what it is. Yeah, and I was looking at some Ken Walker trades, and it does not look like he's very affordable. So from what I was looking at, I would probably try to trade him, to be honest with you, despite being interested in the profile. So yeah, I think I'm with Jake there on that one too. Kind of interested in Charbonnet. But yeah, on Williams here, give me the pick for all the reasons I said.
Man, the trades in the database for Javonte are crazy. Garrett Wilson for Javonte straight up. Like, I love Javante's season by all means, and there's a lot of uncertainty going on in New York, but I'm going to take Garrett Wilson every single time. James Cook for Javonte in the 112. That one is interesting, but I think I still take James Cook. So what else? There's another
Javonte. Javante's a hard player to move off of for a first. Like, right, just saying. Like,
and that's the 112, right? So that's not even like
yeah.
a true like it is a first. So by all means, it has the number in front of it, but like you know what I mean. Like you're talking about having to everyone in front of you to have to miss, and so that means that you need to find value all at the end of the round. For instance, it's Brock Purdy for Javonte and the 201. Give me Brock Purdy. Javonte for Khalil Shakir in the 109. That's probably the deal that kind of aligns here with that KTC price. But it feels hard. It feels hard to get that. But with that being said, Uriah, is he coming back? Like, do you feel pretty confident that he's going to be there in 2026?
Yes, I do. I think so. Just from the teammates, the owner, and everybody else, I do. I feel like the odds of him coming back are better than him not coming back. But one thing I was going to say about the whole Javonte Williams thing, this is also like a really good time to actually get out on him. Last year, you couldn't have got anywhere near this for Javonte Williams. He was left for dead. Like, there's a lot of people that are probably like super, like, there's probably teams that got in the playoffs, dynasty playoffs this year because they still had Javonte on their team and couldn't get rid of him. So this is, if you were one of those teams where like Javonte's a big part of why you were successful, I mean, I might even have one of those. This might be a time just to kind of get what you can close to 112 and get out, cash out while you can. Just kind of spitball in there.
That's a Dallas fan right there. Yeah, definitely agree.
Next one, former Cowboy Rico Dowdle. 205 is what KTC has him valued at. But he's a little bit older, 27.6 years of age.
I'll take the pick. I'll take the value there, I think, on Dowdle. At this point I'd want to cash in. So good season. But you also saw like Chuba Hubbard, kind of take over in the playoff game. So it's, I guess the point is like, it's not all Rico Dowdle. There's clearly some good scheme there. And we've seen Dowdle before, and I think this is more flash in the pan than who he is. Also 27 and a half years old. Like we're getting up there. So yeah, cash in on a guy like this, I think.
I agree.
Yep.
He had kind of a similar value increase that we're talking about with Javonte. Like,
no, same thing. Yeah, you could get him off waivers.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing?
Another one, dynamic if he's healthy, but J.K. Dobbins, free agent, valued around the 210. He's 27 years old.
Similar feelings, though obviously a better player. It's just so many injuries, adding up over and over again. Like, I'm sure that he is going to come back, and I'm sure he's going to have a couple decent games with whatever team he plays for. But I'm not sure you're going to get more than a mid-second anyway for him. So I'm probably comfortable getting out here. But any disagreement?
No, not really.
No, that's what the market says as well. I was going to say, what if you could get 2/3 and a fourth just to try and get into as many youthful picks this upcoming draft? Are you doing that?
2/3 and a fourth.
Yeah, the 308, the 310,
yeah.
and the 402 for
Yeah, I think so.
Dobbins. You getting in, you getting out.
If I can get a Manungai and something out of that type thing, in my draft brain, like if I can get that kind of running back or a Woody Marks, like you've already won, right? You have 3 shots at it now. So, the odds aren't great down there necessarily, but with all the work we do, I think I'd bet on myself.
I'd almost prefer those 3 picks over the 210 by itself.
Yeah.
Just for the chance. So
yeah.
Which I think, we as a team here, we've kind of gotten smarter about that whole situation over time as well.
Yeah, Jake definitely took advantage of it this past year. I would like to this year. So yeah.
Next one, Rashad White, or as I like to say, Rashad White.
Sorry.
The 302. He's valued at the 302. Let's keep a straight face here. And he's 27 years old.
Catch him at the Chabad.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ, we lost Jake on that one. That's hilarious. Rashad White at the 302. Damn, man. Like, I don't know. For like a mid-third, Rashad White might be okay.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be involved a little bit more, especially if he's somewhere else. So, like, I'm not a Rashad White, like, truther by any means. I was actually probably a hater, if anything. But he's, moderately improved over time. So, I probably not the 302 exactly. A little bit less than that, I'd probably be comfortable. But I don't hate the price.
And the last one. So, Tyler Algier, valued at the 210, 25.7 years of age. And interesting fact, he's never fumbled the ball.
Impressive.
Well, now he's going to.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Yeah, probably. But I mean, we've seen him do it. He's honestly, I think it'd be best if he just stays in Atlanta. And like, I like the idea of having him as the handcuff to Bijan versus seeing him go somewhere and they try to use him as like, I know this sounds a little bit backwards, but like I've seen him be successful in replacement of Bijan there, and him going somewhere else, I think it'd just be a little more muddied. Like I hope he comes back to Atlanta. Let's put it that way. But yeah, 210, and he's about 26 years old.
Yeah, it unfortunately feels like the kind of guy who's going to get a contract from some other team, and they're going to try to use him a lot more than he's being used now, and probably not in companion with one of the better running backs in the league, and it's not going to go as well. So that's unfortunate. I would be happy to get out at this kind of price, second roundish kind of pick. Give me that. Like the player, but yeah, I'll take that value. Jake, what are your thoughts?
That's 1,000-yard rusher without Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Okay, I just want you to remember 2022. Yeah, Pepperidge Farms remembers. Now, I've never been a big Tyler Algier fan personally, but I could like, if Tomlin didn't leave, he feels like the perfect Pittsburgh running back in my opinion. Like, I don't know, there's just something about his frame, the way he runs. He should be the 1A to like a Jalen Warren 1B situation, and I don't know, maybe he has a shot at like moving to Los Angeles. Like, I feel like if Greg Roman wasn't gone, Greg Roman would have loved, Tyler Algier. Like, there are so many offenses that will definitely eat this type of running back up. And to both your points, like someone's going to pay him some decent money, and he's going to get probably like 200 to 250 carries this upcoming
season. So then
is like, whether we like it or not.
So then is this price like not that bad to get into him then?
I think it's totally I would eat
because
this.
then he might become a first round pick, right? Like is basically what you're talking about. So
Yeah, I think late first, early second range. Yeah, I think knowing that my floor is probably somewhere in the early second range, my ceiling is probably the 108 to 110 in 2027, something like that. I think that that's definitely feasible. Maybe it's 2028 something. I know people are really high on it, but there's definitely a few places. As Iston said, the Lions, I could definitely see them trying to use him as a true 1B back to a younger David Montgomery. I could definitely see
That's pretty good.
the Bears.
the Bears. I could see
That was
even
Matt in the
Green
chat.
Bay. Green
Good
Bay
call.
doing something with Jacobs definitely falling off with health. I could see, oh, man, like you could literally have fucking Minnesota. What do they have? Jordan Mason moving forward. Like there are too many teams with a really, really poor running back class, not a free agent running back class. Thanks to Uriah for doing all this research, by the way, because it really does show that a lot of these guys are realistically going to be some type of starter, whether or not you want them to be or not. And I think that there's a narrative where if you can get into the majority of these guys at cost now, depending on where they land, they will probably within the next 2 months. Sorry, March. Yeah, March is 2-ish months. Within the next 2 months, they will realistically increase in value just based off of where they sign. And that doesn't even matter who or what that team ends up drafting. It's just the reality of what these guys are going to do as assets.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's actually interesting. I think the riskiest guys are like Etienne, Williams, Dowdle, Dobbins, right? But like,
yeah,
I definitely think like Algier, White, those are like the lower end and they're easier to get into. And definitely, I agree with you there. Walker, I think, is a little bit safer, and Brees Hall, just kind of where he's at, he might not even have that much room to grow necessarily based on our conversation. But yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, making me want to. I think we should try a little bit lower than 210 if you can get in for a couple thirds. But man, how great would that feel if he lands a starting position? You got in on him for a couple thirds in January. So yeah, that's something I think we should try to take action on.
He's definitely going to be in Denver, and he's definitely going to be misused by Sean Payton. And then we're going to all look at each other in 6 months and be like, fuck, we should not have paid those 2/3 for Tyler Algier. But yeah, no, I definitely think that there's a narrative here that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like seriously, thank you, Uriah. Like this was such a great and actionable.
Very good segment. Very good work.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Moving on. So actionability in action. The famous poet once said, "A white boy in motion stays in motion." So we'll stay in motion here.
Okay.
I will actually let Billy take over from here. This is his stuff. So I'll let you drive.
Sure.
I'll let you drive this, kind of talk about whoever and whatever you want to do.
Oh wow, okay. I wasn't planning on taking the wheel, but I got you. Yeah, so I mean last week we talked a little bit about the playoff outcome bias stuff and being a little bit more aggressive in general, heading into kind of the the New Year's resolution talk and all that stuff. But getting kind of actionable on that, I wanted to talk about some offseason buys coming out of the playoff games. Obviously, we have some of that outcome bias very possible here, and then maybe some offseason sells too, because obviously we were talking about not being aggressive enough. So let's talk about a couple of these in general and see if they fall into kind of the process we were thinking about there. I think a good place to start. We were talking about Philly a little bit ago. They lose, and then you have Jalen Hurts and you have AJ Brown, neither having a really great run over the last couple games. We have here no hands comment from Uriah, right? For AJ Brown, but I think both of these guys go into the season with some stink on them. So I think that this is kind of exactly what we were talking about, right? There's probably going to be some people who are a little butthurt about how they performed over the course of the fantasy season for them, and seeing them in the playoffs and that being their last performance, they're probably also going to be like, nah, I don't know if I really want these assets anymore. And so, I feel like this is exactly what we wanted, right? For targets, at least when it comes to an off-season buy and somebody, or at least I'm having some stigma probably from some of your league mates based on the playoffs. So any thoughts on these guys, Jake? Are you into, I mean, I know you said earlier you probably wouldn't get into this offense, but even for the elite guys, are you kind of out on them, or you think there's a window?
Yeah, I was actually talking about the non-QB positions, specifically Hurts. I am absolutely in on, because I think you're right. The narrative is all over itself again. Dude can't play football. He needs a. I think you even said something kind of that's alluding it in a much more intelligent way, that he needs like a very specific scheme to be successful, which I do think it is inherently true. I just don't think he is as rigid as I think a lot of people in the media are making him out to be. And as much as I think that a lot of this does land on him as an individual player, like the reason that the team does lack some fluidity in their offense, a lot of their issues do come from actual individual play calling. And so one of Hurts's biggest issues, I think, is that he is very much a yes man in regards to, he always accepts kind of like what the coaches want him to do, and he's willing to just kind of like lay on his back or lay on the sword. So I do think that the stigma will always kind of live with him. So if you're okay getting into a quote unquote elite quarterback from a scoring perspective, and knowing that that could always end up bottoming out for you, then it's totally worth it. And I do think that he is the type of quarterback right now that if you get into, you're going to be taking away pretty significant points from your competitors throughout the rest of the season. And that's what I would be trying to do with Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown, I'm not as committed to, just because of his age profile. I don't think that the pricing is really that affordable. Maybe someone that is a little bit more interesting actually is Devontae Smith. He gets a very similar narrative to that of like Zay Flowers, where he does have some really important peak games and could be used depending on matchup. If for whatever reason the AJ Brown narrative does actually occur and he's gone, Devontae's value skyrockets, right? We have seen him perform in an offense without AJ Brown, and he's very, very successful. So there's a pathway there, versus AJ Brown, I think at current price is a little too expensive for my liking. What about you, Uriah?
Yeah, pretty much echo whatever you just said. I think AJ Brown is just one that at cost is still probably not all that exciting, and just his performance this year and just in the playoffs, like I'm not really letting that bother me. It's just kind of just the whole entire thing with him. Out on AJ Brown, but I like the idea of maybe trying to get Hurts at a discount.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's move. I think I like in general trying to get into the Bears receiving core. Just maybe Burden isn't the best target, because he did have a pretty solid playoff game there, I should say, heading into the playoffs. So maybe he's not the best, but I do think Odunze for sure is a really good target, because I do think we're going to see some bounce back from him, especially with some of the other players, potentially leaving, and especially DJ Moore, really. A comment here, which I think is an interesting one, who gets a plus if you are trading Odunze for Burden? Like, are you getting a plus on the Burden side or the Odunze side? If I had to guess, you're probably getting a plus on the Odunze side right now. Excuse me. Which I don't hate. Jake, I know you're pretty in on Burden, or both these guys. You're in on Odunze too. So what are your thoughts here in general? Do you think there's some opportunity?
Yeah, I think the feedback here is a pretty solid one. Like, I think if you can get into this Bears pass catching offense, like, now is probably not the time, because it's long gone with Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, to the point of the comparison there with Rome Odunze's value dropping past him. So yeah, I think if there is a pathway to people being fearful of Rome Odunze, I'm all for it. I think being cognizant of what these two receivers look like, specifically Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, I think the best way to view them, and then this isn't like a true player comp, but I think it's more so about usage. Envision Luther Burden being more Jamar Chase and Rome Odunze being more T. Higgins in an offense. And I think that those are still very, very palatable outcomes for end of season success from each of those receivers on any given fantasy team. And if you can get into Rome Odunze for like a singular first right now, because people are scared shitless of the fact that he's had a very, very, very bad foot injury, that they brought him back way too early and re-injured the same fucking foot injury, then I don't know what we're doing. Like, I don't know why we're canceling out players year after year after year when they have almost the same injuries occur year after year. Not the same players, but different players with the same injuries. And then we get told basically 6 months or 12 months later, fuck, we were so wrong to get out at a low off of these assets that we think are relatively higher end. And that's where I'm at with Rome Odunze. So to the question, yeah, if I can get in on Rome Odunze, now would be the time, as long as it's probably like at market right now, or it's just slightly under. But if anyone's asking for a premium on it, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Totally agree there. Okay. All right, so we can keep moving here. Just like 3 more really I want to talk about here. So I want to hit on Travis Hunter. I think we did touch on him last week, kind of in this conversation, but Travis Hunter, just because of the injuries, all the different wide receivers there, he's a cornerback narrative, and then Nico Collins, who didn't have a great game even in this playoff win, and you may be able to take advantage of that in general. He seems like kind of dipping, and then we can start with those two. But yeah, any thoughts on Hunter and Nico?
Yeah, well, Nico was, but he got injured, didn't he, during the game?
He did. Yeah, but he's had a down season as well, right? In general.
And then what? I mean, he didn't have CJ Stroud the whole season either, like those Davis Mills. And so I don't know. I wouldn't be so concerned, but if there is people who are concerned, then yeah, absolutely, this is somebody I'd try to go out and get if there's some sort of value did there. But I do want to talk about Travis Hunter.
Let's do it.
And I'm really not trying to be, I don't know what to use the word, hyperbolic or flippant, or like, I'm trying to be as serious as possible. There is a non-zero chance. Like, there is a chance that he doesn't play another snap at wide receiver. You could kind of look at that offense after they acquired Jacoby Myers, and like, I don't think that if I'm running that team, if I'm Cohen and all that, like, I'm not thinking like, hey, I want to risk this really high draft pick by having him play both sides of the ball and not really focus on one, right? You could get a really good receiver out of this guy. You get a really good cornerback out of this guy. But I think realistically, at the NFL level, it's not something that you're probably going to be able to accomplish. And if that is the case, and they do want to split cornerback and wide receiver, that's not good for fantasy in the first place. I think more realistically, as a team, they probably will, if I had to guess, probably be playing him at cornerback more than wide receiver, as they don't really need him as a wide receiver out there. I don't know. I'd be concerned. I was concerned from the whole time, all the way up to the draft. I didn't draft any of them. Those very specific reasons. Because if the best case for the player was like, hey, he's going to go and he's going to play both sides of the ball, we don't want that in fantasy. Like, we really don't want that. Like, that's not good for us. It's not good for usage for the player and all that stuff. And having him injured for the majority of the year, you can't really blame it necessarily that he was playing both sides of the ball, but he wasn't like, it's just not somebody I'm interested in, because there's no certainty that he's ever going to produce on a weekly basis at the wide receiver position. We don't play IDP, or I don't play IDP. I'm just not interested at all. Like, I don't care if there's a value dip there. It's just not a player that I'm going to ever roster.
Jake?
At least for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Travis last week, but I do think that from an offseason buy perspective, like, it's just so difficult to see what he did offensively and his role grow through, especially the last 4 weeks before he got injured, which I think was during the bye, if I remember correctly. Like, he was at practice and ended up tearing his.
I think he got hurt at practice, yeah.
Right? How fucked is that, man? But all of it's to say, like, his role continued to grow. You're talking about having 80% offensive snaps in week, I think it was 6, and then close to 90% offensive snaps in week 7, which he commanded 14 targets. He caught 8 balls for 101 yards. Like, I'm all for this idea that there is now a world where he's not as much needed in the offensive world because they acquired Jacoby Myers, who is a great kind of stopgap solution right now, especially with a pretty big knee injury. I completely get that. I'm very much on board with that idea. And I'm very much on board with the idea that Parker Washington has basically come into his own and started to define his own role offensively as well. My biggest concern in the offense as a whole is just going to be like the actual development of Brian Thomas Jr. and what that means, because the offense still needs additional verticality in the offense no matter what. And if that's what Travis Hunter will be next year, I don't really know. But he's not just necessarily a singular possession receiver. He has so much additional benefit with his athleticism, specifically in the slot, but he can also line up outside, where I just don't think that role will ever go anywhere. Like, I think that is truly why they drafted him the way they drafted him, was because they saw that he is, for a lack of better words, because I hate this term, but he is a gadget that they can use at any specific time to take the best advantage over the other team. And I think that is from a matchup perspective defensively, to your point, Uriah, as well as an offensive mismatch perspective too. So if they know that they could take advantage of a nickel or a linebacker who's having to play in the slot against him, they're going to do it. And they're going to do it often. So maybe he loses that ability to be necessarily startable until we really know what the offense is really looking like. And I completely get that. I'm just not completely out on Travis Hunter as an offensive asset. And so if the price is at scare tactic level, I'm totally going to buy it.
Yeah, I'm definitely somewhere in the middle, but I think I'm buying because I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive in general. With those kind of situations where you're getting some value there, and I'm just looking in the trade database and just seeing like, what the fuck, I just went off of it. Seeing like Garrett Wilson for Hunter and a 106, that seems kind of like a decent way to go. If you want to do it, there's also Hunter for the 304, 208, and 409. Like, give me Hunter all day in that situation. Charbonnet and a third for Travis Hunter. Like, I'll take those kind of shots for Hunter in the upside there, because I do, again, like I said, I'm somewhere in the middle, slightly more hesitant than Jake, but a little bit more intrigued and think that there's a little bit more potential there than Uriah does. So I do get the concern, but I still see the upside.
And he actually is, according to those trades, cheaper than I was thinking in my head too, by the way. So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some trades where he's a little more expensive too.
Doesn't seem too bad,
but yeah, that's a good point. And I think that there are some trades where he's a little more expensive. A random 27 first for him. There's some for sure out there, but I think there's opportunity. Definitely some opportunity. Okay. Let's keep it moving here. One more I just wanted to touch on, because we are talking about like outcome bias, offseason bias, and all that stuff. And we have Rashee Rice here with another off the field kind of thing, impacting, his football situation. And I don't like want to minimize it or anything like that. But in general, I feel like time and time again, we see these guys, whether you want to, call it getting away with it, whatever it is, because it's pretty much that, but they seem to, get by this stuff, and they're able to at least, go forward with their career. And so I feel like that's probably going to be what happens eventually here with Rice. So if we have another dip in his value, I just kind of feel like we probably should keep an eye on it and probably explore it. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I definitely don't want to minimize what he did. He's obviously got issues and probably not the best person, but we're playing a game here and he's a piece on the board. So just trying to evaluate that.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I don't think you're minimizing it. And I know that's not where this conversation is going, but like the NFL and their actions minimize these behaviors and these outcomes. And so we, as Dynasty Fantasy Football podcasters, don't have the option but to minimize it, right? Like, the outcome, unfortunately, is minimized because we are told that this shit just doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, which is a fucking facade at the end of the day. And like, we should be upset as just like ordinary human beings who see this shit regularly and are just like, well, it's not that bad. It's like, Nope. It is that bad. And we should be questioning. And in fairness, we do have a lot of listeners that shout out themselves in our underdog homeroom and talk about how, this is a concern because this isn't the first time that he's done something. This is now, and I'm not saying the same behaviors. We're just talking about behaviors that are potentially illegal, potentially a detriment to society,
to the team.
Detriment to the team, to their own career. And so, like, that's the way that I see the potential concern with Rashee Rice. By all means, like, I'm very much not going to sell him on the low, but what I've been doing, as well as like talking about before, I'm using him as a piece to potentially tier up with, knowing that there's still,
it's a good point.
There's still a market sentiment that he is quote unquote valuable. And if I lose out on it, I'm getting into a space where I'm hopefully getting a more consistent value into whatever the tier up situation is. And I no longer have to concern myself around the legal aspect of his career from that point forward. So that's how I kind of see Rashee Rice from this situation. Is he a buy? Potentially in the right situation, but I'm most likely not going to be testing those waters anymore.
Yeah, I'd be happy with the league taking proper action, and then I would know not to roster these kind of people. But I don't know that. I actually believe they're probably going to do the opposite. So, any extra thoughts there, Uriah, before we move to the next piece of this?
I want to bring up also Jordan Addison got in trouble again. So,
saw that.
You're like, let's turn the attention a little bit here. Yeah, Jordan Addison had a domestic thing up in Tally, or no, was it another driving thing up in Tally?
Trespassing, I think it was.
Trespassing at a casino or something in Florida.
What are we doing, guys? Can you not just stay
understand.
home and play video games? Like, what? Why can't we just,
like, your career's like 7 years long? Like, I could do anything for 7 years for that kind of money. So anyway,
this is true. God. Anyway, all right, we'll keep it going here. Okay, just one more piece of this section. So again, like, we're talking about off-season buys, talk about some off-season sells. See if we can get a little aggressive here. Just got a couple here. Let's start with Amarian Hampton. Should we be selling him? It does seem like, I know that he had the ankle injury, but it just seems like the community is pretty high on this guy. And I was looking at his value. I didn't look. I'll look at the trade database here right now, but I was looking at his value on Keep Trade Cut, and I was like, oh wow, he seems like he's up there. And I'm not sure if I quite believe in the player to that level. Amarian Hampton for the 109, 112, and 312. Hampton for Loveland in a 208. That happened today. I would, in a 1.5 tight premium, give me Loveland all day on that. There just seems to be some opportunity to move on from Hampton here, and I know that he's an exciting asset, but just maybe a good time to do it. Disagreements, agreements. What you guys think?
I mean, not today. I think it's definitely worth a wait to see who they bring in as offensive coordinator and kind of see where that value kind of goes. Like, I don't think that there's going to be a huge drop or raise between now and next year. I might wait until next year to kind of look at that. Just he's,
definitely have time. I agree with that.
You definitely have time. Yeah, I think it's a little soon for a first-year player like that. So,
I agree. I agree with that aspect. These are the windows, though, to Billy's value perspective point, where I feel like we can take full advantage of what you can get out of Amarian Hampton. So, for instance, you were able to get into Jaden Daniels for Amarian Hampton and Jacoby Brissett 4 days ago. I'm doing that every single time. Like, you were able to get into Amarian Hampton. Sorry, you were able to get into Tyler Warren plus for Amarian Hampton. I'm going to do that. I can get into Drake London straight up for Amarian Hampton 2 days ago in 12-team start 11 Superflex. I can get into Bucky Irving and Kyle Pitts for Amarian Hampton. Like, I don't even love either of those profiles, but I feel like I can easily break both of those guys down into potentially 3 firsts, and I don't think I can ever get into 3 firsts for Amarian Hampton. Jackson Dart, I don't even, this, I don't like Jackson Dart. I can get Jackson Dart for Amarian Hampton plus a late second. Like, I'm going to probably do every single trade I just said to you if I had Amarian Hampton. I don't have Amarian Hampton because I traded him last season after I drafted him in a bunch of different places. So maybe I missed out on a good window, which was this like second offseason hype window. But yeah,
I did the same.
I'm somewhere between. I just feel like right now is like a pertinent time where a lot of people get excited, especially Greg Roman got fired, right? Like everyone's probably like I said before, this is the offense to buy into. That starts to propel itself to a certain level. You can now get into higher end quarterbacks off of these types of young running backs who haven't shown anything. I'm very, very open to that. And by all means, I'm not saying Jackson Dart is a higher end quarterback. I was actually referring to Jane Daniels when I made that comment. So before anyone shits on my chest about that.
Cool.
Good stuff. Sorry. I was looking at trade database. Okay, so great stuff, Jake. Definitely good stuff. Okay, let's move on here. Tucker Kraft. So also saw that he had quite a bit of value, and I know that he's coming off the injury and everything, so there's that. Tucker Kraft in the 206 for Ashton Genty out there. Tucker Kraft straight up for Marvin Harrison. There just seems like there's some trades to be made with Tucker Kraft out there. Any thoughts on that, Jake? I see you laughing.
I was laughing at Matt Wiggins' comment. Now it's a real devil's threesome. Really got me. Yeah, man. Man, yeah, I'm looking at it. There's some really pretty interesting value there for Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft for plus Fannin for Brock Bowers.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too. Was that one QB? I mean, it doesn't matter because it doesn't really matter.
That one was
yeah, I
2
saw
QB.
that one.
Yeah. But yeah, I think too. But then there's also Woody Marks and Jake Ferguson for Tucker Kraft. Like, it's the same conversation we always have. Like we play in these micro markets that have insane biases involved in them. And if you can find the right places to get into the value, then go for it. But to Billy's point about this, I do think that there are some very, very heightened values for Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft for the 105, I think happened today. You said Marvin Harrison for Tucker Kraft straight up. That one honestly is a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know what to do with Marvin Harrison Jr. personally.
Yeah, I understand the concern there for sure.
But yeah, I think that there is definitely a world here where you can liquidate Tucker Kraft, feel pretty confident that he most likely won't start the season completely healthy, even if he's playing, and maybe buy on a dip then when people get concerns, like we talked about 6 or 7 weeks ago about taking advantage of people's higher expectations of quote unquote higher end assets that don't perform particularly well off of major injuries.
Okay, we can keep it pushing here. Do we think Bucky Irving fits this profile? I just feel like he had a pretty good season again, has pretty good value, especially in terms of keep trade cut, at least just looking on the trade database. Bucky Irving for Brian Thomas straight up. Bucky Irving, Christian Watson for the 102. Bucky Irving 109 for Drake London. I feel like there's some tier up opportunities with Bucky. It's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know if I want to let this window pass by into next season and beyond, and not get what feels like near ceiling value for him. So any pushback there?
No, I think you're onto something with Bucky there. Like the words you use, passed by. Like that's how it could feel a year from now, looking at what Bucky's value might actually be compared to what it is right now. Just considering Rachaad White is leaving, probably there's a lot of thought that Bucky will finally be, Bucky by himself, but that's probably not reality. Like this could all come crashing down after the draft and or free agency, and then Bucky's back to being what Bucky is. So I think that using him as a tier up, I think is actually pretty smart.
Okay. Jake, anything extra there?
The only thing I'll add on the Tampa Bay situation is that we saw that offense basically lose all of its efficiency once Baker Mayfield picked up an injury and the offensive line started to get knocked around. And so I'm just curious if there's maybe a more delayed sell window for Bucky when he starts off 2026, most likely a little bit more heated up than he is now. Like, in fairness, I don't think he had a very good year at all, right? Like, he was out for 8
Well, yeah, he had the
weeks.
Injuries. Yeah.
He was out for 8 weeks, and then his last 5 weeks of the season, 6 weeks of the season, he surpassed 15 points twice, and it was his first 2 games back. And then the final 4 games, he scored about 10.5 points per game.
Yeah, again, the offense was pretty lackluster. I'm not a Bucky guy. Again, I'm just trying to, like, put it in perspective. Like, he still had over 15 carries a game, and like he was he's the guy. But yes, to your point, he didn't have a great productivity from a fantasy perspective. It's a good point.
Yeah, so I feel like there might be a slight delayed effect. If you are completely out on him, I'm fine getting out now. But I think I'd try and wait and see what kind of the sell window and life cycle looks like from his value perspective. The further we get away from people remembering how terrible the end of the season was for Tampa Bay, the better it will be for their assets.
The only concern would be if they add another running back, somewhere in the draft. So, that's the only concern, is that his value could take a hit due to that. But I think you bring up some great points. Okay. Moving here, Chris Olave, another one that I just was looking through the values, and I'm like, yeah, he definitely had a pretty, big end of the season with Tyler Shug. And then I'm looking on the trade database, Olave and a first for Jefferson, Olave and a first for CeeDee Lamb, Olave straight up for London. Yeah. I think if you have, I don't really have any Olave, but if you have Olave, I think you should be looking to move.
I agree.
Olave for Lad McConkey?
No. You could do better.
I mean, I'd probably take.
I love that terminology.
I would like Lad, but you can do better for sure than that. You can get plus back. Look at what I was just talking about there. Like, you can get better than Lad. Or at least Lad plus something significant would be my guess.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The 2 here, just wondering, do they fit the process for offseason sells? Parker Washington and George Pickens. I think obviously Washington is a better candidate because he's more likely to probably take a dip in value over time. But I also think Pickens had a pretty impressive season, and I don't know how replicable it is, but it might be. So I could be wrong there. So he might not fit the process, but I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think both these guys, I mean, just from a return on investment type deal, that's always, a good process if you're a value-based guy, which I know Jake really is. I think both these ones that you could be selling them at a higher price now than you could last year. And for that reason alone is definitely, I think, a smart move. Parker Washington's much more because I do believe that Parker Washington is, even free agency, the draft, whatever, like he could be replaceable in his role a lot easier than George Pickens can be, assuming George Pickens comes back to the Cowboys. So, yeah, I think both just value-wise, smart moves, but I'd probably hold Pickens and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that there's a narrative for Pickens in both directions where if he goes to a new team, he becomes, quote unquote, their wide receiver 1, that it's better for him. And if he comes back to Dallas, it's better for him, right? And so I don't know if this is necessarily the best sell window. I do think that there's probably a world where if he does go elsewhere, his value can even take like another bump. And if you don't necessarily love the profile, but you liked the points in 2025, that could be the time to sell. And if you have to hold on to him in 2026 because he's still on Dallas and his value didn't take the bump, then you realistically will probably get somewhere in like the top 15, top 17 wide receiver return, no matter what. That would be assuming that CeeDee Lamb is a bit more impactful than he was in 2025, and he comes back to a more impactful role. But I don't know. That one's challenging. Parker Washington definitely makes a little bit more sense to me. I think I'd probably sell high now if I can. This feels like one of those situations where like Josh Downs would have, like windows of extreme success and people would be really high on him and be like, sell Josh Downs buy Josh Downs for 2 early seconds or a late first. It's like if you can get off of Parker Washington for anything that feels like liquid.
The 208. Parker Washington for the 208.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably do that. Yeah. Just because I'm realistically doing something else with Parker Washington, right? Like Parker Washington is on my team.
Parker Washington and Jake Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anything really like with any multi-year value or liquidity, you're in.
Yeah,
probably
real liquidity. Yeah,
and that's not against Parker Washington. Like I think that there's a world where he does create a role for himself, but it's not the bet that I need to be taking if I can get into
those kind of assets.
Liquidity. Yeah.
Like I think that the absolute best career archetype deal you could ask for is if Parker Washington turns into Jacoby Meyer.
Yeah, something like
which
that.
is a good football player, but I want to
Tyler Boyd,
mid-second round,
something like that.
Mid-second round value,
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess since I'm kind of here anyway, I'll kick us over to the dynasty trades, and we just have one this week. We all definitely took a little bit of a break, but I think things will pick up from here on out. DU1, we had a 26-112 for Mark Andrews, 27 late second and 28 early second. Yeah, I mean, I think the process kind of makes sense for Andrew's side, like late first for Andrews, and you get a couple seconds, and one of them hopefully is early, which is kind of like that late first. Like I get that value. I feel like there's like a cheaper way to get an Andrews right now. So I don't know if like this was really how I'd want to do it, but again, like I think that I get how the value makes sense and how the seconds kind of make up that first value right now. And the idea is obviously Andrew should definitely have a bounce back from, what we've seen so far. So yeah, I think it's a good trade in general. But the Andrew side does make sense on paper, even though I think you could go cheaper.
This is Jake's trade. So this is him just kind of putting his money where his mouth is, where he's talking about Baltimore offense earlier in the episode. So I understand where he's going with this, trying to get ahead of what he assumes will be a value increase in Andrews. So I think it's fine. I got nothing bad to say.
If I didn't have 60% Mark Andrews, I would be buying him too, but I'm like already oversaturated.
Yeah,
I know. I tried to buy him for cheaper from you. So if you just would have
accepted you weren't sending me deals.
If you would have just accepted the other trade, we would have been talking about, oh yeah, Jake got a great deal for Mark Andrews. What a really palatable offer.
That trade database would look so much better, wouldn't it?
It would. Yeah. The only other thing I'll add here that I want to talk about specifically with this build is that I don't have a lot of like actual flushed out liquidity. And I felt like my 112 was at a spot where I know that closer to the draft, I probably could have done a little bit more. I'm fully aware of that. But I also think that depending on the Baltimore hire, Mark Andrews' narrative changes drastically. And so this felt like a way that naturally I can always probably turn that 112 into an early second and another second at any point in time. So I felt like I was getting a free Mark Andrews. Like that's how my like process was working. Yeah. And it also expands my team's liquidity a bit more than what it currently was at, which was this 112 for this year. And I think I had like a fourth or something along those lines. No, I don't even have another pick. So it was one of those situations where I basically got out of the 2026 class and got into the 2027 class and the 2028 class, both in hopefully somewhere between the late second of the 2027 class and the early portion of the 2028 class. Whether or not it works out, I don't know, but I do think that it just gives me a little bit more room to play with on this team than just sticking at the 112, which I don't know if I would have really gotten that much more value than Mark Andrews points this upcoming season, if Mark Andrews even gets like 75% of what I expect of him this upcoming season. So that's kind of what my perspective was.
Yeah, I like the bet there. I like that bet. It's good stuff.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, we pray for Mark Andrews' rebound. That's what we pray for. So all our pockets can benefit.
I don't have any shares.
You're gone?
You sounds like you need to go get some. That's what it sounds like,
Yeah.
brother. Go get you some shares.
Anyone but Dan. Dan hit me up on the side after the trade and was like, "How did you just get a free Mark Andrews?"
Yeah, it's funny those picks being so far out. I mean, not one of them isn't, but the other one, 28, it makes it feel less valuable. But again, like those, as soon as these 26 picks are used, it's over to 27, and then the 28's the next one. So it happens quickly. It does happen quickly. So if you can get that out of your head and make some of these trades, like they are pretty valuable, and you can set yourself up very nicely for the future, and have that churn kind of ready. So I definitely get the idea there. That's all I got, though. That's all I got.
Cool.
End it.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on the live, and also you that just listen on podcast. Thanks for listening. Like, it means a lot to us. So join the Discord if you can. It's fun, lively. Even in this off season, it's still pretty active, which is awesome. So
very active.
We have not just regular homeroom, but we have film study room. We have some Debbie talk, some non-football talk. There's stats and graphs, and all that kind of fun stuff. So hop in there, join us. Other than that, y'all have a good night.
Peace out, fam. Be easy.